How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
You sent me this right as the show starts, and this is just such a distraction. Welcome, it's Eric Erickson here. Yes, it's a distraction. You know. Sorry, Philip sent me this story right as the show starts from Garden and Gun about the python hunter in Florida, this 61-year-old woman, Donna Khalil. She's been bitten by the snakes more than she can count. She loves the snakes, but she hunts them to kill them even though she loves them because the pythons are such an invasive species down in Florida. They're killing everything in Florida. They're eating the alligators. They're eating the deer. They're eating everything. And the governor down in Florida, they're doing the python roundup now. Governor DeSantis has been talking about needing to do what they can do to wipe out the pythons down in Florida. You know, people get these pet snakes, they get gigantic, and they dump them out. And they've been doing it for so long. They're super invasive, and they had a major cold spell a couple of years ago down there. It went all the way down to Miami, this massive cold spell. And unfortunately, it didn't kill all the pythons. The ones that left, well, they're stronger than ever. It's just, oh my gosh. I hate snakes. I really hate snakes. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, we've got to begin with a presidential policy. I was thinking about this the other day, and I don't think Donald Trump gets the credit for this one particular policy. And I need to set the stage for you here. Let's talk about the tariffs for a minute. You know I don't like them. I'm not here to dismiss them. Let's just talk about them as adults for just a moment, objectively. What is a tariff? A tariff is a tax. Who pays the tax? The president says foreign governments pay the tax, and that's not really true. Although one of the things that's happening is the foreign companies that are producing the goods that are taxed, they are reducing the prices of their goods to a degree by the amount of the tariff such that the price is offset. In other words, if the price goes up $10 because of the tariff, they're cutting the tariff, or they're cutting the price for good by $10, and they're just eating the profit. They're doing this because they don't think that you are willing to buy the product otherwise. Now, some companies may be cutting the price a little bit, but then the importer is still paying the import tax, and they're having to eat some of it. Rarely are you getting 100% of the cost. You know where you're getting 100% of the cost on the tariff is groceries. The margins are so slim for grocery stores. Contrary to what Elizabeth Warren would have you believe, margins for a lot of grocery stores are so slim. If you're buying consumer products at the grocery store, you're buying your groceries, you're eating a lot of the tariff costs. That's why, for example, coffee prices have gone up so much. Banana prices have gone up. Tomato prices are starting to go up as we head out of tomato season. We're importing tomatoes from Central and South American grow houses. A lot of these products, we're starting to see the prices go up at the grocery store. Or we should be seeing the prices go up at the grocery store. But it's not just that. There actually is a lot of other economic turbulence right now. There's a lot of economic turbulence about the commodity prices, about the impact of tariffs, about the underlying weaknesses in the economy. I was mentioning to you the other day the Harvard study which no one has disputed, by the way. The Harvard study shows that if you take out data centers and AI and the related costs to AI, the economy only grew at 0.1%. I got a really angry email from a financial guy who says, I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm scaring everyone, and I should not be telling people to stay out of the summer, which I didn't do, by the way. But also, he didn't dispute the data. He didn't dispute that there really isn't significant growth in companies in the S&P. He misunderstood what I said. Stock prices are going up, but when you look at the actual companies of the S&P, outside of the top 10, 15 companies in a total of 500, there's not good growth projections for those companies. So the stock prices are going up, but the actual fundamentals for the companies isn't as good as a lot of people have you believe. And this guy wanted to tear me a new one for just telling you the truth. And he's a stockbroker and was very upset that I would say what I said to you, that I was discouraging you. I'm not discouraging anybody from investing. I'm just trying to tell you what's going on out there. And yet the economy is still doing good. Labor is starting to go wobbly. The Federal Reserve is concerned about labor. Small businesses are now a bit more and more vocal. They've eaten all the profits they can to cover the tariffs, so they're just not hiring people. They're not paying higher wages, anything like that. It's a problem. It is. But the president has deployed one policy, and that one policy is taking care of everything else. In fact, it is because of this one policy, you're not feeling all the pinch of the tariffs you would otherwise feel. It's because of this one policy, a lot of companies aren't having to lay people off. It's because of this one policy that the commodity prices are not up higher than they are. And to the extent anyone talks about it, they're not giving Donald Trump credit for it. They're trying to make a lot of excuses to avoid giving Donald Trump credit for gas prices being lower than they were than the start of the pandemic now. That's right. Gas prices are the lowest they have been since 2020. And here's what makes it more remarkable. The BP factory in Whiting, Indiana, caught on fire. It's the largest refinery in the U.S. Midwest. Gasoline prices actually spiked in the Midwest because of it. It's one of the largest refineries in the United States of America. 255,000 barrels per day crude distillation unit associated with 60,325 barrels per day vacuum distillation unit, 100,000 barrels per day cat feed hydro treater, and 24,300 barrel per day hydro treater. They're shut down. 115,000 barrel per liter fluid catalytic cracker was shut down on Thursday. Now, that may not mean anything to you, but it is a massive, massive loss of refining capacity in the United States. The refinery in mid-September began planning maintenance. There was flooding due to a severe thunderstorm. It caused a cascading effect. They're ruling out sabotage. They don't think it was the Russians. You know, the Russians have sabotaged some oil refineries in Europe. They don't think that was it. But the Great Lakes oil prices shot up by about 20 cents, and they're coming back down. And nationally, we're below $3 a gallon in some places. The national average is below $3 a gallon. Gas Buddy predicts prices will go even lower in the coming weeks. There's a good prospect of motorists enjoying sub-$3 prices for an extended period. The drop is overwhelmingly being driven by the significant increase in oil production from OPEC through 2025, but not just OPEC, from American oil producers domestically as well. Why? Why? Because the President of the United States is not only not an enemy of oil, but has really good relationships with Saudi Arabia, unlike the last guy, and with the American oil producers, Chevron of which has just found a massive pool of oil in South America, Exxon, of which has found another massive pool of oil, and BP, which has found a larger one yet in Brazil. And the Brazilian socialists who are calling for climate change and calling for changes to the global economy for climate change, the Brazilians are like, but not this oil. We want this oil. We want it. The President of the United States has given oil producers confidence that they are not going to be punished for pumping and producing oil. The result is that gas is now below $3 a gallon. The result is that grocery prices have otherwise come down, offset by tariffs. Commodity prices are affected. Transportation and energy costs for companies are affected. All of these things have a cascading effect to prop up the economy and lower prices that are offset by the tariffs. So you may not feel prices going down other than at the pump, but the price of the gallon of gas has gone down so much that it's offset the increase in tariffs. So companies are less and less having to eat into their profits. They can raise the price on you, but you don't feel the price rise because it's already the price it was. They just haven't walked the price back down. So nothing's changed for you. Wages have started going up again, so you're feeling okay. And it's because of the gas prices. Not just the gas prices, but the deregulation of the energy and the loosening of permit restrictions on the industry. By getting rid of the massive amount of regulations these companies have had to follow, by speeding up the licensing and permitting process for these companies, the president has been able to bring down the global price of oil. And yes, the president of the United States, Donald John Trump, deserves the credit for it. Why? Because Saudi Arabia wouldn't do it for Joe Biden. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain, they did not want anything to do with pumping more oil while Joe Biden was president because they did not like him. He would show up and lecture them. He would pee in their bowl of Cheerios. They weren't very happy with him. Donald Trump is there and they like him. They are friends and they're like, let's help this guy and do what he wants. Let's pump the oil. Through his personal appeal, through the appeals of his administration, through the structure of the programs, grants, treaties, and deals he struck, and through the signaling to the oil industry that you can pump oil and we will not sue you, we will protect you. The price of a barrel of oil is down, and the price of a gallon of gas at the pump is lower than it was during COVID. Our economy is not strong. It looks strong. There are fundamental underlying weaknesses. But because the president has been able to get gas prices lower through his appeals to other nations and his policies at home, we have time to fix the weaknesses, and you are protected from feeling their effects. These are not weaknesses caused by Donald Trump. They're pre-existing weaknesses. But because of his policies and his foresight in deregulating, in fixing the permitting process, in getting companies to produce more oil, in getting countries to produce more oil, he's made it easier on you. He's brought down your costs. And in the process, he's been able to implement policies that would otherwise cost you, but now you don't feel the pain of the policies because prices have stayed where they are instead of coming down. But now part of the price is the tariff, but the price that you pay hasn't changed. He's been able to boost revenue to Washington's to help pay down the debt. Now, here's an underlying problem, and this gets to the economic problem, is he's using tariffs to pay down debt, but the debt is still going up because Congress has just decided to go along with this and not stop the president on the tariffs, which is a tax on you. And as a result, you're getting taxed, and the money is going to pay down the profligate spending of Washington, and Washington is engaged in even more profligate spending. We're headed to underlying economic weakness in this country in large part because of the national debt and the spending of Congress. That's not really the president's fault. He's certainly helping spin the problem. He's certainly participating in the problem, but it predates him. But the policy that Donald Trump is doing, that Donald Trump is not getting credit for, is oil production in this country and around the world. It is not a coincidence that the oil-rich nations of the Middle East did not want to produce oil. And remember, when Joe Biden was president, the Democrats were suggesting it was a brazen conspiracy to help Donald Trump. It wasn't, but it was designed to hurt Joe Biden. They didn't like him. They didn't like the way Joe Biden treated them. They didn't like the way Joe Biden lectured them. They didn't like Joe Biden working with the Iranians. They didn't like him cutting a deal with the Iranians. And so they decided not to give Joe Biden what he wanted, reasonable gas prices. With Donald Trump, they like him. He likes them. They have a great relationship. And here, oil companies in this country know they're not going to get sued by the Department of Justice or the Enviro wackos while Donald Trump is president. So they're producing gas and oil, and you and I benefit. The president deserves the credit for the price of gas going down. Events may change things. The price will definitely go back up at some point. But for right now, he was very shrewd in doing what he could to get energy prices down in order to do so many of the other things he wanted to do. And he deserves the credit. Y'all, I have been waiting to tell you about Cove Pure. I'm so excited. So, I moved my radio show and podcast out of my house to a studio, and I'm in a big corporate building, and you don't really trust the water out of the pipes. Cove Pure is the fix. They've got clear wave technology. It removes 99.9% of contaminants, lead, PFAs, pharmaceuticals, you name it. I've got one in my office, and I finally have stopped buying bottles of water thanks to Cove Pure. There's no need to call a plumber or drill any holes. I was able to do it. You just plug it in on your countertop. You set the temperature you want on the touchscreen. It tastes like water. That is, it doesn't have a taste. It's fantastic. Take back control of your family's health and drink water the way it's meant to be. Go to covepure.com/Eric right now. Get $200 off while supplies last. That's covepure.com/ERICK. Covepure.com/Eric. Get $200 off. Covepure.com/Eric. The White House says that they're tearing down the East Wing of the White House that was built during the FDR administration to make room for a new ballroom. And now, I have always found it very endearing that the President of the United States does not live in a palace but a house. It's actually, when this country was formed, it was the largest house in the United States. People forget that. But still a house, not a palace, because he's a man of the people. He's not a king among us. And this president, trying to secure his legacy before he is term limited out of office, is building this giant ballroom. And I actually don't like the look of the ballroom. I think it's just gaudy. I think the gold plate in the White House, it looks like something European, and we're not European. And all the gold leaf and the rococo, it's like a French whorehouse or something. I don't like it. But I'm not offended by the president building the ballroom. I don't like the look of it. I think it's bigger than the actual White House. I think there were ways to recess it partially underground to make it less big on the White House grounds. I realize all the president's supporters will be cheering it on, but all the president's haters are claiming it's corrupt. It's built with bribe money. It's all sorts. No, it's not. The American taxpayers on the hook for nothing. Most things at the White House that are built with donor money, from the bowling alley to the putting green to the gym to the pool. And this is no different. I disagree with building this particular ballroom. I kind of like the state dining room and the more intimate events you have at the White House, but I really couldn't care less that he's building it, and find the outrage from the left to be particularly hypocritical given the things the left has done in the White House and the things they've built there. Trump gets to do it. You just don't like it. I don't like the building. I don't care that he's doing it. Now, let me tell you about Vision Computer. You, my friends, could go to Vision Computers and build yourself a computer. You can get your computer upgraded. You go to visioncomputers.com or 404-COMPUTE. You tell them Eric sent you, and you can save even more money. And if you've got managed IT for your company, your employees could actually be dealing with real humans and not AI chatbots. If you use Vision Computer, they'll get a special number they can call, and in 15 seconds or less, they'll be able to get an actual human being on the phone and solve their computer problems faster than a Google search and more precise than a computer-generated AI. They get to talk to someone. They don't have to fill out email tickets, so your uptime increases, your downtime decreases, your profitability goes up, and your employees can be really good at their jobs and don't have to worry about their computers. That's Vision's job. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. Any one of you nationwide, from Alaska to Florida to Maine to California, doesn't matter. Tell them Eric sent you, 404-COMPUTE. Your company could save some money So reach out to Vision Computers. See if they can help you stay online and build your computers or upgrade your existing computer. Individuals and businesses. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. You're going to have to humor me with a personal note for a moment. I am on the radio, as you know, in Atlanta, Georgia. It's my flagship station, and I was a lawyer in Middle Georgia for a number of years and met a guy. His name is Boozer McClure. He is my tailor. I don't have a lot of suits, but the suits that I have are, with few exceptions, his. I met him when I was a young lawyer. He actually cut me a deal on my first suit because I badly needed one and really couldn't afford one. I was a poor lawyer at the time. My wife's boss, who was the president of our alma mater, Mercy University, used Boozer a lot, and I still do. In fact, I wanted to make some suits as Christmas presents for some friends of mine. Great guy, and I found out recently he is running for the city council in Marietta, Georgia. And so if you live in Marietta, Georgia, I can't tell you how much this guy would be a great addition to your city council. So if you're in Marietta in the ward in which Boozer McClure is running, you should absolutely vote for Boozer McClure for city council in Marietta. He's not even paying me. He's not even cutting a deal. He didn't even know I was going to do it, but I wanted to do it. I had no idea he was running for office. What a great guy. Now, the other thing for those of you in Georgia, where I've got about 20 affiliates, you should know that the Public Service Commission election is happening right now. Early voting's going on right now. The election is the first Tuesday in November. There are two actual far-left progressives who wish to go on the Public Service Commission in Georgia. And what they're doing is they want to do equitable power rates, which means your power rates must go up so that the data centers can come in. Right now in Georgia, the way the rule works is that if a data center wants to come in, the power companies aren't allowed to raise your power rate. The data center has to cover 100% of its power cost. It can't share the wealth with the rest of us. The progressives, oddly enough, want to allow sharing the wealth so that your power rates go up. Why would progressives want to do that? Because then they can say, well, we need solar power because the natural gas and coal and nuclear is too expensive. And so they actually want to raise your rates so that you might embrace solar power. So if you want to stop the madness and the progressives, you Republicans need to go vote right now. You can do it today. The election is the first Tuesday in November. And it really, really, really does matter. Now, we got to move on to other things. I got my local stuff out of the way. But seriously, those of you in Georgia, you need to go vote. And if you live in Marietta, vote for Boozer McClure. We got to talk about the New York freak out, because the billionaires in New York are starting to freak out. I don't know Bill Ackman, the billionaire investor. But he is going on a tirade today about Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa, S-L-I-W-A, Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa is a member of the Guardian Angels. He wears the red beret. For those of you who don't know his backstory, the mob put out a hit on this guy. Back in the day. Why? Because he was a community organizer, is a community organizer, the executive officer of the Guardian Angels, which is a nonprofit crime prevention organization. In 1977, he created the Magnificent 13, a civilian group dedicated to combating violence and crime on the subway. When the city was experiencing a subway, they changed their name to the Guardian Angels in 1979. A lot of them are black or Hispanic. They were unarmed. They were trained in karate. They learned the requirements for a citizen's arrest. They wore red berets to signify they were members of the Guardian Angels. And they decided to go make New York safe as citizen vigilantes is what they were called. In fact, Ed Koch, remember him, the famous mayor of New York? He criticized it, launched an investigation. And actually, in being a critic and launching an investigation, turns out the Guardian Angels were so popular that they were awarded with a level of official status. Mario Cuomo, the then lieutenant governor of New York, actually was a very, very famous early supporter of the organization. In 1992, speaking about the Crown Heights riots and the Hasidic Jews, Sliwa said, the difference between Hasids and black New Yorkers, there's no fear that the Jewish community is going to come to the streets and loot and rob and rape. When in my lifetime I've ever seen a Hasidic Jew grab anyone's pocketbook. And of course, there were lots and lots of people who screamed racism about it. But what you cannot deny about Curtis Sliwa is that he actually loves New York City. In April of 1992, Curtis Sliwa was assaulted outside his East Side home, beaten by 3 men 24 times with baseball bats. He suffered a broken wrist and head injuries from the assault. John Gotti, the mob boss, turned out to be behind the attack. In June, several months later, June 19th, 1992, Curtis Sliwa was kidnapped and shot by 2 gunmen after entering a stolen taxi in Manhattan. The taxi picked up Sliwa from his home in the East Village, and a gunman hiding in the front passenger seat jumped up and fired several shots, hitting him in the groin and leg. The kidnapping was foiled when Sliwa leaped from the front window of the moving cab and escaped and underwent surgery for internal injuries and leg wounds. Federal prosecutors charged John Gotti, the son of the Gambino crime family leader John Gotti, with attempted murder and other charges. Prosecutors claimed Gotti was angered by remarks Sliwa had made about Gotti's father, John Gotti, the mob boss, on the radio. After 3 attempts to try him, 3 separate juries couldn't agree to convict him on charges brought. The charges were dropped. Jurors later told the reporters they believed he had a role in the shooting. The mob has targeted Curtis Sliwa for battling the mob to bring safety to New York. Gangs have targeted Curtis Sliwa for bringing safety to New York. Curtis Sliwa formed an activist group of black and Hispanic men to patrol the subways of New York City to keep people safe. He loves the city of New York. And he ran as a Republican for mayor of New York, unopposed, and he got the nomination. Now, Andrew Cuomo ran for mayor of New York as a Democrat. He ran a terrible primary campaign, and he lost to Zoran Mamdani, the communist. Andrew Cuomo, the man who sexually harassed his employees and killed your grandmother, thinks that Curtis Sliwa should drop out of the race because Andrew Cuomo is convinced that only he can win. The polling shows that Curtis Sliwa is running in 3rd place, and that if Andrew Cuomo had Curtis Sliwa's votes, he would win, except that presumes that all of Curtis Sliwa's voters would want to vote for the man who killed their grandmother, which is not true. It presumes that Republicans would jump ship to vote for the man they long voted against as a Cuomo to stop Zoran Mamdani, which is not a guarantee. Pressure is being brought to bear on Curtis Sliwa to get him out of the race. This is a man who the mob shot, and he still battles the mob. You really think you're going to bully him to get out of the race in New York? The billionaires, Bill Ackman is on social media attacking Curtis Sliwa, claiming that his wife and him are getting money of some kind, that they're essentially being paid to stay in the race, which is utter nonsense. Curtis Sliwa is staying in the race because he believes in New York City, and he believes in his ability, and he believes he won the nomination, unlike Andrew Cuomo. And Andrew Cuomo could drop out because he is running as a third party, having lost the Democratic primary. I don't think Curtis Sliwa has a chance in hell of winning in New York City. And I don't think Andrew Cuomo has a chance in hell of winning in New York City. And I think New York's voters are going to get exactly what they deserve with Zoran Mamdani, and I can't wait for them to get it good and hard. I want New York City to become the third world hellhole that we all predict it's going to become, so people realize that socialists, communists like Zoran Mamdani are bad. I want the entire country to look at the degradation of New York City under Zoran Mamdani and say, we can't vote for progressives here because we don't want to wind up like New York City. I think the bullying billionaires who are bullying Curtis Lewa to drop out should maybe bully Andrew Cuomo, who didn't kill their grandmothers because they were too old and their grandmothers were already dead, to maybe show some compassion to the New Yorkers whose grandmothers were killed because of Andrew Cuomo's policies and tell Cuomo, hey, big guy, maybe you should get out of the race and let Sliwa have a shot at it. But they're not doing that. Because the billionaires of New York City, Bill Ackman included, they don't walk a mile in your shoes. They pay big money so their kids don't have to go to the public schools of New York. They pay big money so they don't have to be confronted by the problems on the street that Curtis Lewa has in his career confronted. All they see is polling. You know, I'm a big believer in polling. Bigger believer than any of you. I think polling averages are pretty good, and I think there are some good pollsters. But here's what I know the polling actually shows, is that if Sliwa were to get out tomorrow, a good portion of his base would not go vote for Andrew Cuomo, and even if you combined them all and gathered them together, they still wouldn't have enough to beat Zoran Mamdani. And you know, part of the problem is that the billionaires of New York City have built their sky palaces, and they have nothing to do with the rest of the people of New York City. And unlike Curtis Lewa, they haven't built relationships in the subways with the middle class and the lower middle class. They haven't actually put their lives on the line to keep people safe and transform New York City, but they somehow put their faith in a politician who killed your grandmother and sexually harassed his employees, and they think that guy's going to be the one to save New York City. Bill Ackman, billionaires of New York City, you have no idea who I am, but I need you to know something. I ran political campaigns very successfully in this country. I'm a pretty popular nationally syndicated radio show host. In my flagship station, a massive market, I'm the #1 radio show in the demo, and I know you know what the demo means. And I can tell you something from my years of experience as a lawyer for politicians, as a campaign manager for politicians, and as a campaign consultant for politicians, and as someone who pays attention to the political process by virtue of my job, and I dare say pays more political attention and better attention than you and your gatekeepers who guard your money for you, who have decided that they are political experts by virtue of being tied to your money. And I can tell you what it is. When your entire campaign for success is premised on forcing someone else out of the race in a general election, you've already lost. If Andrew Cuomo can't win a general election but for someone else dropping out of the race, Andrew Cuomo's already lost the election. Andrew Cuomo had a shot at being the Democratic primary candidate, and he lost. In fact, he ran a terrible campaign and didn't do all the opposition research and attacks he should have done on Mamdani at the time. And he should not now be rewarded for running a terrible primary election campaign by virtue of punishing the man who actually put in the work to get his party's nomination. And you can say he ran unopposed, but then you know what? Andrew Cuomo could have run as a Republican and had the head-to-head showdown there, but he chose not to. He chose to run a terrible campaign in a Democratic election, and then he lost, and because New York doesn't have the sore loser laws they should have had, decided to run as an independent candidate, and he was able to force out the opportunist Eric Adams, but he can't force out the man who actually believes he put in the work to save the city and wants a chance to stand before the electors. So I'm sorry, Bill Ackman and the rest of you, you're not going to get the man out of the race. And you're going to lose to the communist who's going to give you and the rest of New York the policies you guys actually deserve and give them to you good and hard because you had the opportunity to build inroads with the middle class and the lower middle class like Curtis Leawood did. And instead, you took your private jets and your helicopters and lived in your sky palaces and avoided the middle class and improving the actual city of New York other than dropping your money so you get your names on buildings, which isn't actually the way to improve the lives of anyone, just makes you look good. So I'm sorry the communist is about to get elected. Maybe you should consider what you did to get to this point to have a communist elected in New York City instead of driving out of the race a man who literally took bullets for his city. Y'all, we've just gone through a news cycle over the last week where a group of young Republicans, none of whom are running for office, were in a group chat, some of whom saying things about praising Hitler and the Nazis. And the National Press Corps vilified them. And I think I and other Republicans who criticized them were correct to do so. But you know what? We've got a Maine comp candidate, that would be the Democratic candidate in Maine, who has a Nazi tattoo on his chest. The tattoo that he has is the symbol for the Nazi corps that organized and oversaw the Holocaust. He actually has that tattoo. The Associated Press and others that piled on the Republican kids for their Nazi group chat are calling it, some see it as a symbol. No, it actually was a symbol of one of the Nazi groups. What is it, the Toppentroff or whatever, that the SS that organized the Holocaust and carried it out. That's the tattoo he got. It's not seen as, it actually was the symbol of that Nazi group, and he got it tattooed on his chest. And the Democrats and members of the press who denounced the Republican kids group chat, none of whom are running for office, are giving passes to this guy. The Pod Bros, the Pod Saves America Bros, who are outraged about the Republican group chat, they're like, nah, it's just a tattoo, just one drunken night. They do this with this group chat. None of these kids are running for office, and yet with Jay Jones, the Attorney General candidate in Virginia, who wanted to murder a Republican and kill his kids, you're like, I was just a text message. This guy, who is a noted history fan and history buff, gets a Nazi tattoo, and they're like, I was just a tattoo one crazy night. Can you understand why so many Republicans are willing to circle the wagons around their bad actors? Because not a single Democrat or member of the press who will attack Republicans over group chats is willing to stand up and denounce a man for getting a tattoo of the group that conducted the Holocaust on his chest, including Bernie Sanders, who's defending him. Now, let me tell you about Old Glory Bank, my bank. They would like to be your bank. They can be your bank if you go to oldglorybank.com/Eric. oldglorybank.com/Eric, ERICK. Old Glory Bank's my bank. They're a bank by conservatives for conservatives. They were started to combat the debanking trends of the left, and they also didn't like the fact that there were a lot of banks now where you can't even go use your debit card if you're in a gun store or something. And they're like, nope, we don't like that. So we're going to start a bank for conservatives. Fastest growing bank in America. oldglorybank.com/Eric. They are a fantastic bank. I've got a checking account with them. I've got a savings account with them. You can too. You can do home loans with them, CDs. If you're a veteran or first responder, if you're active duty military, you get great discounts, including waiver of fees on premium accounts if you're active duty military. Go find out more at oldglorybank.com/Eric. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. They really are my bank.